Well, today it's a pleasure. I have Jaime, who's also known as Lazy, and Mr. Untouchable Morales. Welcome to the studio,
thanks
man.
for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So I'll tell you what, first impression, when you called me
Yeah.
and you said, hey, I'm pulling into the back,
Yeah.
it routed me into the back. And I saw this black SUV. And I go, oh, is that you in the SUV? And you're like, no, I'm in the black truck. And you turn the corner. I was like, oh my God, that's not a truck. What is that? It's a Denali?
I mean, it's a Denali GMC, but I just modified it. You know, I put the 12-inch lift and the big old tires.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, because when you came in, the tires are as tall as me. And I looked up, I was like, oh my God.
Hey, turn the block and all you hear was bass and music just went on, huh?
Yeah, when you turned, I was like, oh my God. The first thought, I was like, I don't know where to squeeze you into our parking lot. I
know, it was kind of hard parking in between those two cars, but you know what? I got that truck. That's my first truck I ever owned. So I took it home and it was stock. And as I had it parked in my driveway, my neighbor's one of my boys. He goes, hey, dog, you're going to have to freaking make some upgrades on that truck. You look like an old man's truck. I go, all right, watch what I'm going to do then. And I did all that to it,
Well, I'll tell you what, it looked amazing.
Thank you.
I happened to notice on the front grille, it says Untouchable.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, who is Mr. Untouchable?
Man, let's see here. I want to say that Mr. Untouchable started probably about 25 years ago when I barely got out of prison. Because before that, I was known as Lazy. That's what they call me from my neighborhood. And I carried that name for a long time. Don't ask me why they call me Lazy. I was not lazy. You know what I mean?
So you're a worker.
Oh, yeah, I'm the opposite of lazy. It's like one of those things, a clash with Tiny, but he's a big old guy. I was not lazy. I'm a go-getter, always have been. It's crazy. Then I start reading the book of Proverbs after, and I start realizing that lazy is like a thing of sin against God, laziness, So I was like, when I got out, I needed to find a name for my business. And I started, first I started with Sir Lazy on my cars. And I was like, nah, man, that doesn't sound, it's not, really hidden. So we used to, when I was in my neighborhood, we had a clique. And it was just a couple of us. And we named ourselves Intocables, which was untouchables in Spanish. So we did a lot of dirt, whatever. And I wanted to keep the name alive. I wasn't saved at the time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to just transfer it to English. Intocables, and transfer it over. All the dudes that were from that clique, a couple of them, one of them is dead, the other one had triple life, and the dudes got all messed up on drugs. I was the only one that was out, and I was trying to do something positive. So I wanted to keep that name alive, but in a positive aspect now, a positive perspective. So I kept Untouchable. And then the reason why I went to Mr. is because some of my boys, like some of my friends, when social media started coming out, they started reaching towards the name Untouchable. And I says, you know what? I'm going to capitalize that. I'm going to put Mr. Untouchable, because I started the whole thing, the Untouchable movement, So I just put Mr. Untouchable,
I love it, man. Tell me a little bit. So the mystique behind Untouchable, what does it mean to you?
You know what? It's taken on a whole different meaning. It's like when you're named as a child, your name has meaning. We all have different meanings if you look up our origin of our names. And as I've converted and given my life back to the Lord, Untouchable takes on a whole different perspective, because the Bible says, touch not mine anointed. The Bible says there's different verses that pertains to, another thing. One of the things I like to say is, we're legit now. We're doing things the right way. So the cops, the enemy can't touch us no more, because we're covered by the anointing. So I'll even, on my clothing line, I'll put Untouchable, and then I'll put a cross as the T. So it's like letting it know, like, hey, we're blessed,
Yeah, well, let's dive into your story, because I'm really excited to hear about it. You know, how did your childhood begin? What was life like as a young Mr. Untouchable? Even as a child. What was good family, great parents?
I wish I could say that. I mean, I love my mom and I love my dad. They started young. My mom had me like at 18, and my dad was probably like 2 years older than her. So they were kids themselves, And I had an older brother, so it was me and my brother. He's a year older than me. My brother Al, he's 1 year older than me, almost exactly. And when we were young, they were, they're like a normal young couple, man, just trying to figure it out. And this was back in the, the 70s, late 70s, going into the 80s. They had a lot of problems, a lot of issues. And I could vaguely remember like them fighting and them arguing, getting, and I was a baby, but, some of the memories stick with you even as you grow up. So there came a time where like I was probably like 3 years old or something like that, maybe close to 4, I don't remember, but my dad left. He took off, and my mom, she tried to not be seen, try to be found by him, So there was a period of time where my dad was not in my life. He left, and my mom did a lot of the raising by herself, and then she went on to have more kids after me. I had another brother that's like 7 years younger than me. So my mom was just struggling back then. Like poverty was I mean, it still is, but it was real common. And I was raised on food stamps, on welfare, Section 8, all that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that we were poor until I started going to school and I started realizing, seeing what other kids got. I just embraced it. And it was fun. For the most part, like, my childhood was awesome. Like, we grew up in some apartments. Most of the time we were in apartments, and, you get to see all kinds of other kids playing by the pool. And, I remember we'd had this park. It was a daycare for kids behind our apartments. So I didn't realize what was going on, but I feel like what it was is God was taking me away from the apartments and putting me in this, me and my brother and a handful of us, we'd go play baseball, or we'd go play football, or we'd go play basketball, just always doing something positive or productive. And it would keep us out of the apartments, and we spent a lot of time back there, and even, video games was barely coming out, Nintendo and all that, Mike Tyson's Punch Out and, all that stuff. But there was a balance there, because nowadays you see a lot of these kids stuck on video games. But there was a balance where we wanted to be outside. You know what I mean? It was I loved it,
No, well, I definitely grew up in the same era as you, because I grew up outside. We were on our bikes.
Yeah.
And we didn't ride around the block. We rode miles.
Yeah.
And we played games that you can't even, they're politically incorrect to say. We used to play, 3 flies up.
Yeah.
We used to play, football where you throw the ball in the air and you go and tackle the guy. Mm-hmm. We used to call that smear the, if I say it now, I'm in trouble, and but that was our generation.
Yeah.
We were outside go-getters. We were very creative. I don't know how many ramps we built. I don't know how many things we jumped, how many tires we popped, how many crazy things we did as kids. I remember racing down the catwalk on our little BMX bikes.
Yeah.
And, if you wrecked, and you just got up.
Yeah.
If you poked a hole in your body, you just put something on it and kept going. You didn't go home, because if you went home, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
And, so today.
Yeah, it's sad, man. I still have scars from when I used to ride my bike. They had the metal pedals. When it's free wheel and it, oh man, I remember I got nails right here. I looked at my shin. I'm like, I got a big old hole right there. But, I just went home, cleaned it up, and, I still have that scar. But yeah, it's sad. I sometimes will go outside and, it looks like the Wild. It looks like a bandit, like an abandoned town, you know what I mean? Where you don't see no kids. If I see kids out there, I get happy. I'm like, man, that's right. And it sucks, man, because I feel like that was key. What I think it is because, social media now has opened it up where you see all the bad stuff that's going on in the world. That's always been there. But now it's just exposed. Now there's a light shine on it, and it makes people scary to come outside, to let their kids come outside. But it's always been there, you know what I mean? But like I said, the social media just makes it a smaller world.
No, you're absolutely right. Everything just gets condensed. Everything's viewed from a microscope perspective now, and everything's judged, a little more crazy.
What's crazy is I was going to say, I think that has a lot to do why so many people suffer from anxiety, from socializing. They don't know how to do it because they do it behind a screen. Social media has opened up a platform to give everybody a voice, which is cool to an extent. But at the same time, when you meet them in person, they're not that person. They're not that person, and I don't know. It's kind of backfired.
No, I think one of the things it's done is it's let anybody kind of be somebody,
a keyboard warrior.
A keyboard jockey in the sense that they can say whatever they want.
That part.
But we grew up in a day, in the era, if you said something, you said to your face, and then you settled it. We fought. I don't know how many times I fought with my, with my neighbors. I tell everyone I've never really been in a fight, because I was never in a fight with anyone outside of my friends. You know, my friends, I mean, we threw hands.
Yeah.
And it was mostly because my brother made me. You know, my brothers would pin us against, and then we'd hug it out, and then we were best friends playing. So, you know, but as far as finding trouble, I never found trouble. I just, you know, it was always neighborhood stuff. And I realized today they don't settle things the way we did.
No, it's like nobody wants to get nobody wants to get beat up anyways, but nobody is, it's too much like, you know what, I'm just gonna go get my gun. I'm gonna go get my weapon, okay? Or they have it on them already. And it's sad, man, because, you know, there's no going back. And you know what I was gonna say is that I've been telling a lot of my friends, I says, you know what, if these guys knew what lied ahead for them once they pull that trigger, if these kids knew, or these men, or because a lot of these dudes never been to jail. But if they only knew what was in store for them once they went away, I'm not just talking about like, you know, the pressures of prison. I'm not just talking about like the pressures of all the politics and the racism. Not just that, but also the fact that you are separated from your family, your loved ones, from your kids. The separation, you can't just go to the store and get a burger, or you can't just, in and out, you can't just go and, you know, there's a lot of things that are ripped away from you once you lose your freedom. And if these guys knew what lied ahead, the things that they were going to suffer from, waiting on a letter, waiting on a mail. You know, when I was in YA, they used to drop the mail. It'd be mail call, and they would go down the tier. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I just want to, this part, they used to drop a letter, and you would hear the letter, the envelope hit the floor because it was quiet, and it would echo, and then they would slide the letter under your door, and it felt good to get a letter. You know what I mean? Like, just those little things is what you look forward to. Mail call, see if somebody remembered me today, you know?
Wow.
If they only knew, there wouldn't be a lot of stuff that's going on, you know?
Yeah, so kind of going back,
yeah.
When did life start switching? You talked about 4, your dad, you know, kind of was out of your life for a little bit.
Yeah. So my dad left at a young age, and we talk now. Me and my dad are cool now, man. He's one of my best friends, and we made amends, and, you know, I think I need him now more than I did back then, you know, because what the path and the journey that God's taking me on, you know, my dad has been really vital. So what happened was, I started going to school. My mom was moving us all around town. You know, we mainly resided. We started in East LA, and then we moved over to a city called Pico, Rivera. And in that city, it's a small city, and it's you know, predominantly Mexican, you know, Chicanos, and we just were like bouncing back and forth wherever Section A, you know, was allowed. And in the schools, it was cool, man. It was all fun and games. And then all of a sudden, because the 80s were dope, you know, 80s were so many trends. And we went through almost all of them, me and my brother. But then it came a trend. There came something that we started seeing on the big screen, which was a lot of, you know, colors came out and all these movies, you know, NWA, and it started shifting us in a different direction. Our mindsets, you know, I felt like the music started changing, got more violent, more aggressive, more against authorities. And it started shifting our mindset as a youth. Everybody embraced it and everybody loved it, you know what I mean? So all of a sudden, like in the late 80s, gangs started like making their way back, their comeback. So I remember it was 1989. My mom had sent me away to go live with my dad in West Covina, because I was at a park one day in Pico, and me and my brother we used to always go play basketball or whatever, baseball, and this little girl comes up to me and she says like, "Hey, you're my brother." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, you're my brother. You're Pete," and that's what my middle name, family calls me. And then she's, "You're Al," and we're like, "Who is this little girl?" You know? And then she went back and she brought, "Wait here," and she went in and she grabbed my dad. And she grabbed my stepmom. That's how I got reunited with my dad.
Whoa.
At a park.
So how old were you?
I was probably like 11, 12.
So how many years has Dad been gone?
8, 9.
Wow.
Yeah, 8, 9, like, you know, and she came up to me and she brought my dad, and mijo, you know, we're like, look at this guy, you know what I mean? I mean, we kind of had an idea with my dad, like he had the same name as my brother, and we all look alike, and that was where we had our little reunion, and we went back home that day. I told my mom, like, "Hey, my dad's outside," and, you know, from there on, he started trying to be a part of our life, getting us on the weekend, and then when she started having problems with me because I started messing up in school and I started ditching and all that stuff, she sent me to go live with my dad in West Covina, which is about 25 minutes away. It's on the San Gabriel Valley. I was more towards Southeast LA. And when she sent me to go live in West Covina, like, you you can take the kid out the neighborhood, but you can't take the neighborhood out the kid, you know. And at first when I went over there, I was doing good. I was a new kid in school, and it was all cool, you know. And then within time, I started hanging around with the wrong dudes, you know what I mean. And like I said, at this time is when gangs started making. This was probably like '88, going into transitioning into '89. You know, everybody just wanted to be a gangster. We were just young and dumb. But I think at first, like, it was the Crips, and you know, everybody wanted to be a Crip or a Blood. Maybe they were Mexican. You know, colors made that big, you know? And then, you know, us as Mexicans, we started going back to our roots, which was, you know, being a cholo. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I started changing my hair changed, my hairstyle changed, started slicking it back. And, you know, I would go to my friend's house in the morning and change my clothes there and then walk to school with my friends. And so my dad caught onto it, and something happened. Something happened where I got in a fight at school. They transferred me to another school. It was already getting ready to promote. They didn't call it promotion back then. They called it graduate from junior high. So anyways, I got a letter in the mail saying that I wasn't going to be allowed to walk. My dad was really upset because he spent a lot of money. He got me some pants that were like $70, and that was a lot of money back then. I think they were called those Z Cavarucci's or something like that.
Z's.
Yeah.
I remember
Remember those? Tapered at the bottom?
Tapered at the bottom?
Yeah, parachute. MC Hammer style.
Man. Yes.
So he had bought me some of those and a nice shirt. And when I got that letter and they said that I wasn't going to walk, he was really, really disappointed. I think he just had enough. So what he did is he disciplined me, but he went overboard. You know, he put hands on me like a man. And at this time I was 14.
Wow.
And, you know, I never had that happen to me.
And he had been out of your life for a long period of time.
I'd already been living with him for like a year and a half. Year and some change. And then this situation happened. And inside I was furious. I was mad. I ended up going back to go visit my mom one weekend, and I never came back. And I told my mom, I told my brother, my brother already disliked him. And it just fueled that anger towards him. So that anger and that rage that we had, when you're young, you have a tendency to take, when stuff like that happens to you, you take it out on yourself. Like you said, like in other words, I'm gonna show them. You know, you think that's bad? You ain't seen nothing yet. So this is a trip. This is crazy. So everybody started getting into my neighborhood, and where I lived at, like I said, we were all kids in this apartments, and we were all like, it was all fun and games. And then all of a sudden, the gangs just came in, and you see all these kids that I grew up with. They just started, you know, instead of knowing them as Rachel, they're calling themselves Dopey, my homie Ben, Demon, and you know, everybody Tweety Bird and Turtle, and like we all started getting, you know, everything started changing. But the day that I got jumped in, my church that I go to now, Victory Outreach, had sent a team of people down to my apartments to show a movie that they were using to reach out to young people. And at the time, like I said, gangs, they were catering to, because they were trying to use that as a net. So they had a little small TV that they rolled into the parking lot of our apartment buildings. And it was in between like the buildings down in the lower part of the parking lot. And I remember they rolled it in like on a little small, you know, little TVs back in the days. And we all sat around, apartment kids, watching the Duke of Earl. And at the end, it touched us, you know, it touched us. And I remember being broken. I remember like going to the front, like a lot of us, and accepting the Lord. We didn't know what we were doing.
And you're about 14?
14, yeah.
And so you're having your first God encounter.
Yeah.
After you've been jumped into a gang.
Yeah.
You're angry at your father.
My own personal God encounter, because my mom had one a couple years before that when we were homeless. She was at a park one day, and this church came up to us and started praying for us. And then they started inviting us to church. I was probably like 9, 10 years old. And we had a little bit of God there, which was our first experience with the Lord. So this was my own personal one.
Wow.
And so anyways, I'm right there, you know, yes, I received the Lord as my Savior, you know, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, I'm wiping the tears from my eyes. And I had already asked to be from the neighborhood before this happened. So as soon as I'm done, I turn around, and from a distance, like two of them, I remember like there was at least 2 or 3 of my homeboys that were my age, and says, "Hey, Pete." And I looked around, and I'm like, "Come on, you ready?" And I'm like, "Yeah, hold on." And I told the people, "Hey, thanks, nice to meet you." They wouldn't jump me in.
So you got indoctrinated in 2 places.
I think that happened for a reason, though. I think that happened because God wanted to put his covering over me before I went into this life of gangbanging. Because, yeah, the Lord planted his seed, and the devil tried to come and snatch her right away. But it was like God put a covering over me because once I got jumped into my neighborhood that night by 4 of my homeboys, everything just shifted. You know?
So talk to me, because I am not gang affiliated.
Yeah.
So what does it really mean to be jumped in? You know, I get it. Everybody.
Yeah, I think
it's a fight.
I think in their minds and whoever created it is to see if you're really tough enough, if you really got what it takes to defend the neighborhood, or are you just some weak sissy dude that can't take a beating. You know what I mean? It's like an initiation. It's kind of weird. It's kind of backwards, because they stomp you out or they beat you. Like one of my homeboys, they broke his arm and shoulder or whatever. And I've been part of some jumping in where you put a hurting on you. It's like you take your frustrations and anger out on this person. But in my case, it wasn't like that. I was able to, I had hands, because being in sports and having an older brother prepared me for that. You know what I mean? Like, it made me tough. You know, it made me have a strong chin. You know what I mean? So, you know, when I got
probably an iron will too. Yeah. I'm not going to lose. Little brother's mentality is different than
Big
older
time.
brother.
But my brother used to always, like, you know, beat me up. You know, but what it did is it taught me how to take a punch. You know what I mean? So, anyways, fast forward, I'm getting jumped in, and you know, I'm excited, and then, you know, trying to figure out a name for me, and everything just shifted. Like, I feel like once you get jumped into a gang, demons are assigned to you. Yeah, they are, wham, like it changes your whole persona as a person, because you change the way you walk, you change the way you talk, you start listening to different type of music. You know, everything about you shifts. At least for me, it did. It was a whole culture within itself, and I adapted it. You know, I adopted it, and I took it on full force. I feel like my generation was like one of the last ones that still hold on to the roots of what, you know, how it originally started in the 70s. Because we used to, you know, the 3 flowers and everything like that in our hair. We used to spend like hours ironing, and, you know, just we wanted that look so bad. And it just took over my city like an epidemic. It was ridiculous. Like, if you weren't from a neighborhood, you were considered like an oddball. I mean, don't get me wrong. We still had a choice in the matter, but the cards were stacked against you. You know, I'd come out from my apartment with my mom and my brother, and we'd walk down the stairs, and there'd be big old blocks of my neighborhood. We'd come home, and we see, you know, gang writing everywhere in the apartment, because everybody wanted to start writing on walls after that. You know? And
in that culture, it seems like it was always outside and in front. It was always a hangout type atmosphere.
You know what's crazy is, yeah, because we were already used to being outside. So when you go outside, and when everything shifted, you know, you started seeing everybody and all your friends, you know, started being from this gang. So yeah, you couldn't even really go outside, or at least where I live, without seeing multiple gang members. You know what I mean? And what's crazy is because we knew people from all over Pico. I knew guys from the other side, because I used to go to school with them. So initially, they tried to get me into their neighborhood. My worst enemies, they were some of my best friends. So we were at a park one day at Smith Park, and they were having a fireworks show, and we were already living on this side of the town, Rivera. And me and my brother were walking the carnival one day, and I seen these kids that I knew from the other side. Like, hey, come on, Pete, where do you go jump in? Like, it was cool. Like, it was a cool thing to do. And I was like, at first, I was like, all right. My brother says, what are we doing? We can't do that. We live over here. We're going to get killed. I go, you're right. My brother saved me so many times, man, from crazy stuff, and that was one of them.
Wow.
Because we would have went home, we would have died. They would have killed us if I would have went through. I wasn't thinking. I was just, spur of the moment, whatever. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, you were down. I was
down. I was ready. Because I had so much anger and fear. I wanted to do something. I knew something was coming. And like I said, had this rage from my dad. And you know, it was just, I embraced it.
So violence became an outlet.
Big time. I mean, I was already like raised, like I said, with my brother and my cousins. You know, we used to always fight and mess around, and it was like second nature to us. Violence, anger. You know, my household growing up was a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting, a lot of yelling. I remember because you remember back then we didn't have central air. You have a little freaking AC on the wall, and good luck if that thing worked. So I think the heat and the poverty and all that combination, it created a bad atmosphere. You know, you wake up in the morning, it's already hot. You know, there ain't nothing to eat. Like, I'm going to go hit the streets. I'm going to go somewhere. So
you're hot, you're hangry, and you're like, I'm ready to explode.
Yeah, we used to go. I remember we used to go to 7-Eleven, man, and I learned how to steal, burritos. Even though they were hot, I'd put them in my sleeve, and that'd be my lunch or something, breakfast. Late at night, driving my bike, go to the donut shop and get like an apple fritter for like 75 cents or something. I mean, we had to eat. We learned how to eat, the different ways to eat. We used to have to steal. You know what I mean? But wow. Yeah, it was growing up was way different. Like I said, it was there wasn't. I think, like I said, I remember those summers, the long hot summers, man. And people would just rage, anger. It brings out a lot of anger. And being from a gang, it made you feel accepted. Whatever you were missing at home, the love, the attention, you were getting it from your homeboys. It was all fun and games at first. It was cool. We were partying, drinking, smoking weed, like trying different drugs, meeting.
And that all started at 14?
Yeah. Getting attention from girls because you stood out like a sore thumb. You were different. You were like a rebel. You were like, you stood out like amongst the regular dudes, you know what I mean? And, girls always like a rebel. They always like somebody who looks different, acts different, has an attitude, you know what I mean? So I liked the perks of it. I mean, like it had some perks, you know what I mean? But then things started getting serious. Things changed where, we started realizing we had enemies. We started realizing that there was people that didn't like us just because what we were from. It had nothing to do with us. It just had the history.
So just from one side of town to the other, who you were once friends with, you can't be friends with.
It's crazy. I went to high school, so it was my freshman year. I was 14 years old, and me and one of my homeboys, Cubby, we walked up to the high school, and school hadn't started yet. It was before school, and we were dressed, in our gear, and a group of guys approached my homeboy, which was right next to me, and they started jamming him up, like, where you from, and all that stuff, and then the main dude that was doing it was the guy that I knew, my friend. And he looked over to me and he goes, no, don't tell me. Like, don't tell me you did that. Don't tell me. He started putting two and two together and I'm like, yeah. He goes, he looked at me and goes, you messed up. You messed up. And this dude was, afterwards, like later on, the dude was a killer. Him and his brother, like everybody knows him in Pico. They went away, they did life. But he was my friend and I'm from this neighborhood now. This is what I represent now. This is my homeboy. You know what I mean? So right away, it brought, and we were like even worse enemies because that was my friend. Like, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
So it just divided lines.
Big time. Big time. And, I had to accept it for what it was, and we had to accept it for what it was. We couldn't be friends no more, you know what I mean? And it sucked, you know what I mean? Because these dudes used to come down to my side of town. They used to come and ride their bikes to my side of town, you know what I mean? But because, and I think the situation with him, his dad, his mom, everybody was from that neighborhood, you know what I mean? So he was born into it,
Indoctrinated.
Mm-hmm. Generational curses, man.
So you're beginning to see the dividing lines, who was friends are no longer friends, frenemies. It's like, and then I hate you more because I used to like you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And, like I said, I'm going with the flow. You know what I mean? So things start shifting as we start realizing that these dudes hate us. We got enemies now. So, and then people some of my homeboys started going to jail. And now the cops are coming after us. We used to mob home like in a big old mob, literally like 30, 40, 30, whatever, homies. Because we in a school on that side of town. So we'd have to walk after school in a mob. We had to meet up so we could protect
each other.
So we meet up at a bus stop. Some guys that didn't go to school or they went a continuation, we'd meet right there, wait for them. And then we'd all mob down this street, down Pico. Just to be protected, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, the cops, narcs, they had special gang units that would come up. And I remember the first time I got arrested, I was seeing like somebody wrote in pencil our enemy's neighborhood, and I went to go cross it out with like a fluorescent marker, just anything. I had anything. Somebody gave me and the cops rolled up on me, got me for vandalism. You couldn't even see when they took a picture of it. You couldn't even see what I did. But they just needed anything. They just wanted anything to like get us off the streets and start putting us in their files, pictures. They would ask us, and we were so naive, we didn't know that we'd pose for them, or they'd get us in a group. You guys kneel down, throw up your neighborhoods. Little did we know they were building files against us.
Oh man.
Yeah, we were dumb. We were young.
You were just posing it out.
Yeah, making the hardest faces and whatever.
So how old were you when you first got like tatted then?
Me and my brother had experimented with it at home a long time ago when we were like 12, like just needle and thread, like poking each other. And we put like our name on, I put my name on mine, he put his on his, but I was 14 when I got my neighborhood tatted on me. I had it right here on the forearm. I don't have it no more. I ended up lasering it off and putting something different. But I was 14 and I wanted to get I wanted to get tattooed so bad. Like that was my dream, that was my everything.
The block.
Yeah, I wanted, when you're young, you don't care about drawings. You want writing. You want like the neighborhood. You want writing everywhere. Like even to this day, I trip out because I'm an artist now. That's my profession. In prison, that's what prison. I ended up going and getting a trade. But anyways, it's just all about writing. So I wanted it. I had it like 20 times tattooed on me.
Wow.
My mom, I remember when I came home and she seen, she's like, that better not be a tattoo. She started trying to scrub it off with the Brillo pad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're about 15 now. You're a freshman in high school.
14.
14. Right there, it seems like it got real.
It got real. Once I started going to high school and we had to go and face our enemies and walking home with the cops, being put on probation. They put you on summary probation. That's how it starts. I started getting in trouble. I only lasted in high school a couple months. I didn't even last that long because we started fighting and, just our attire. They didn't like our dress. We couldn't wear we used to wear the buckles with the letter initials on it. They just will use anything just to get us out of the school. So within a couple months, I was out of there and had continuation, had a lot of idle time. You know what I mean? So I ended up
and it's not because you're not smart. It's just because of your look, your attitude.
Attitude. I think mainly because of the attitude that we feel like we have a certain persona that we have to, shoes that we need to fill, pride, all that stuff. We're just watching our back in class. You can't even be comfortable in there. It's like, you're young and dumb. We don't know what we're doing. And then this whole transition to high school is way different than junior high. All these kids that you don't know. So I just didn't want to go no more. They kicked us out. And I was like, all right, cool. Shoot, what's next? And then that's when I started going to jail. And I started at 14. I went to placement. It's when your parents can't control you, so they send you to a placement. But I had another case pending. I got caught beating up one of our enemies on the street one day, and cops, got me. Were trying to get me for assault and battery. So I'm in placement with one of my homeboys, and I have another case pending. But in that placement, they had a rule where you can be gone for 3 days, and as long as you come back before the 72 hours, they're not going to violate you. So me and my homeboy decided one day, because I had heard my older brother got jumped into my neighborhood when I was in there, and because I went first and then he went after. So I AWOL'd, took off, went back to my neighborhood. We're like deep in LA, and we had to take a bus. And when I tried to come back to the institution, it said, "No, you're late." So it says, "You're on the run now. You're on your own." So I had to leave the placement, and then I was on the run, and then they picked me up. Me and my mom. It was ugly. My mom was mad. She was stressed. And one day I went home, and she called the cops. Said he's here. Like, she didn't know what she was doing. She was trying to do it like because she loved me, and she didn't want me to get in more trouble. So I remember we had a confrontation, and I knew the cops were on their way, so I kind of pushed her. I didn't hit her. I just pushed her. But even doing that, I realized man, I never put hands on my mom before, but I just wanted to get out of there. So I remember going down the streets to call somebody to pick me up, and as I'm at the phone with, the narcs pulled up on me and took me in. So now I'm fighting the AWOL. I got the AWOL, and now I'm fighting this other case. I'm detained, and then from there, I go to juvenile halls. I start doing my whole tour. It's called Los Padrinos with the initial one, and then there's Silmar. That's a co-ed one. They have girls that are on the campus that, go to school with them. And then I ended up going to a youth camp. And, I got found guilty, went to a youth camp. I opened up a camp called Challenger that was in San Fernando Valley. And right there I got refiled on because I got into another fight with some of my enemies. Yeah, so it was just violence. It just picked up where I left off, even in there, because you're trying to make a name for yourself. You're trying to put in work. So either you are or you're not, you know what I mean? And when the type of person that I am, when I do something, I do it
all the way. Yeah, you don't look like a part-way guy. You're all the way in. You look like I'm diving in head first.
That's the way I was taught, you know what I mean? And I'm still like that. I'm still like that, man. But now it's for good, So yeah, I ended up going to camp and ended up doing almost a year. And then I got out when I was 15. And I stood out for a little bit. I remember I got out like Mother's Day, 1991. I got out May 10th, and it was the first time I had ever been away for so long. And I did good for a while. Got a little girlfriend and stuff like that. And And then at 16, I started just, being with her a lot. But then we started having problems. And then I just started running with the wrong crowd. You know, it's crazy. Again, like me and her had got into it. And I remember I had pain, I had hurt. So what do you do when that happens? Is you start trying to go distract yourself and you start hanging around with the wrong people. And I got the devil set me up so bad. Like I ended up hanging out with some of the worst, craziest dudes in my neighborhood. And at that time we were at war. We were at war with our rivals because there was just a lot of killings. I lost 5 homeboys in 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, different neighborhoods. We were getting hit from different sides. So it put us in a position where we felt obligated that we had to go back. And that's where Untouchables was started, because we felt obligated to go back and put in work. So it was just a lot of freaking ignorance, you know what I mean? We were just going out there and keeping that war alive. And, one of the guys that was with me, he ended up going up for triple life, 3 life sentences. And they tried to put me with him. We eventually got caught because the cops were looking for us. They knew that we were the ones. For like 2 months, a 2-month spree of just jacking cars, robbing liquor stores, and using that money in the cars to go put in work. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I absolutely don't know what you mean. I mean, I hear you, and I'm like, oh my, your life could be a movie. It's a script.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Holy, I mean,
stuff that I've seen.
See, I can't fathom that side because it's never been a part of my world. But, part of that era, I saw it. It was at my school. I was just part of the, the athletic crew, the jocks, I guess you would say. So I stayed away from it by God's grace, but, hearing, the thought, we're putting in work. You talked about something crazy. You said in 1 year I lost 5 friends. Yeah.
One of the guys was 14 years old. I remember.
And you're about 15 at this time, 16?
Yeah, 16.
How do you process that? At 15 years old, how do you even, I hung out with you, you're here one day, gone the next. I mean, I had a good friend of mine, he was an athlete. He ran the ball and he took a helmet to his thigh, and then, about 8 months later, he dies because he had cancer cells, and what happened, he didn't know, and then it opened up bone marrow cancer, and before you knew it, he was gone.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was more like 18 months, but within 8 months, I mean, this guy went from being the best athlete
disappeared,
to had his leg removed, to after that it was just so aggressive, he died. I remember trying to process that as a young man, and that was hard. I was probably at 15 years old or so, but I can't imagine.
There's two ways that you could process it. In going to jail, it's the same thing. Going to prison, you either can use that as a warning to like get away, fear of that happening to you and running from that, and say, hey, you know what, I'm not gonna go out there right now. I'm just gonna chill back here. Or you can have the opposite attitude, and it can enrage you. Jeez. And it can make you mad, and where you want revenge. And that's the attitude that I chose.
Wow.
So instead of making me cautious and making me aware, making me like, oh, let me hold back, it made me dive in even more. Made me want to go back and put in work even more, because, we took it personal. These dudes were guys that represented what we represented it. You know what I mean?
So did it make you cry? Did it break you in any sense, or did it just infuriate you from the inside?
I don't remember being too many tears, to be honest with you. I remember just being furious, I think I've seen a lot of my homegirls crying, I've seen a lot of the girls crying, but to us, we were hard. We were so cold. We were so ruthless, that I don't even remember crying, to be honest with you. I know we were saddened by it, but I think the anger and the rage overshadowed that. You know what I mean? We just wanted to go put in work.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that just meant robbing more liquor stores. That meant gathering money, stealing, jacking cars, to go down the streets and look for somebody.
Yeah, it just meant pulling up at our enemies' houses at 8 o'clock in the morning, catching them when they're getting ready to go to school. I mean, just pulling up to, it didn't matter who was out. It was an all-out war,
Yeah, that's just right there. I mean, think about this.
It's crazy.
You know, so you're still 15, 16.
Yeah.
And so putting in work is catching the neighbor as they're going to go ready to start their day. And that means shooting guns. Does that mean just running up on them?
Yeah, I was evil, man. I remember, you know what's so crazy though? Like during all this chaos, I feel like God still had his hand on me. And I'll just share one incident about what happened, not too much detail, but we pulled up on some enemies one day. And I usually was the driver because I didn't trust nobody else driving. And I remember one day we pulled up and I wasn't driving that day. I actually had this big old shotgun in my arms. And instead of like, you know, shotguns has two type of bullets. They have slugs and they have the pellets. Pellets don't really do no damage if they're from far away. It's the slugs that will go through car doors. So that particular shotgun had slugs, and I was the one that was, you know, had the shotgun. And I remember we pulled up and we caught these guys slipping, you know, early in the morning. And when I went to pull mine out, I was like, and nothing, you know, it wasn't. I was like, what the heck? And it, you know, something like that. It's instant. I'm a kid, and then we took off, and everybody's like, what happened? What the heck? I go, I don't know, man. The safety was on.
Wow.
But
that was God.
Like that was God. Because if I would have shot that gun, it would have, you know what I mean?
You took someone's life.
Oh, it would have made a hole, like, it would have made a hole in somebody, you know what I mean? And I know that was God. There was a couple instances like that, you know what I mean? And there was another instance where I knew there was something different inside of me. I started seeing it because like I said, we pulled people out their car. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying this proudly. I'm just saying it because this is part of my story. It's a reality what happened. And I'm not bragging about it, you know, but we pulled up to this one car at the mall, and it was like a SUV. And as we're going, me and my homeboy, we got out the car. We went to go snatch this person out, but I realized it was a woman. And like, hey, get out the car. Like, we need your car. And she said, oh, okay. And sorry. Like, she said something that I was like, oh man. She goes, I just had a baby. You know, let me I gotta move slow, you know? And I said, what are we doing? Like, this is wrong. And I try to tell my homeboy, like, no, let's leave her alone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she just had a baby, you know? And the baby wasn't with her, thank God. But he was so like, he had a different heart. He goes, nah, we're here, we're doing it.
So in the midst of your hardness, there was still a compassion in you. And when she said, I gotta move slow, I just had a baby, it touched you.
Yeah. And check this out. So we ended up taking the car because that's what they were there to do. That's what we were doing. I'm already in. We're already doing it. So I'm like, all right, you know, we got the car, we took off. That car was one of the cars that we got busted for. I had 4 carjackings. That was one of them. Out of all the 4 carjackings, or 3, excuse me, that I got busted for, she went to court, and instead of testifying against me, she was the only one that says that I don't think that's him. I can't remember. So it made me feel even worse.
Oh my God.
Or I was like a conviction, like a deep conviction inside, because not only did she give us her car with no hassle, even though she just had a baby, when she went to court, she just was like, no, like he's not guilty. Like, I don't want to press charges on him. And like something happened there, you know, something happened inside my heart and my soul, like, you know, and that's when I started realizing, like, there was different parts in my gangbanging, in my prison term, where I knew that I was different. I knew I had a heart. There was another time we were in a cell, and it was me and one of my older homeboys. I was only 18 at the time. I had already got transferred over. When you turn 18 in there, they transfer you over to the county the next day, literally. I was 18. I was fresh in the LA County Jail, and it was me and my homeboy, and there was this other dude and his homeboy, and we were in their cell playing 21, gambling, you know, messing around, having fun. The other guy that was there was my age. We were both 18, and then my 2 homeboys were like the same age, playing 21, having a good time, you know, just chilling, you know, killing time, you know. And back then, you used to have money. We used to be able to have money on us, you know, change, money, all that in the county back in the days. And there was this white boy that was on the bed, on one of the bunks right there. And for some reason, the other guy that's there, he's like a youngster like me. He starts, you know, hassling the white dude, you know, like, because in LA County, like, if you weren't Mexican or black, you had no love. I mean, I'm not racist. That's just the way it was. That was the way it was. And they used to catch the blues. Bad. You know, they'd walk around with black eyes and no shoes all day because they were the less of the races in there. You know what I mean? And there was nothing you could do. That's the way it was. So this guy was on the bunk, minding his own business, grown man, and he probably was like 30s, maybe early 30s, and this little kid, this guy, 18-year-old, he wanted to try to make example out of him, and he started messing with him, what's up, like making him flinch, you know what I mean, like doing all that. And I'm looking at him, and then I'm looking at the dude, and you know, I'm trying not to pay attention, but it's bothering me. It's bothering my spirit, bothering my heart, my soul. I'm like disturbed right now. So finally, I had enough because my older homies weren't saying nothing. They weren't telling me, hey, kick back. They weren't saying nothing like that. They were just letting him
do whatever.
And the only reason why he was doing that because he knew that he had us behind him to back him up. That's what I felt. To me, that's a coward. So I jumped up, and that could have been bad because it could have caused, you know. But I jumped up and I got it in that guy's face. I said, why don't you leave him alone? He ain't even bothering you. Why don't you mess with somebody that's ready for you, that wants to do something? Why are you picking on him? He doesn't want no problems. You're only doing that because you know that you got us behind you. I called his bluff in front of. I got mad. I couldn't. I felt like that was a test.
Yeah, it reminds me of Moses. Remember, Moses is Hebrew, born, raised in Egypt, and sees the Egyptian putting it on the Hebrew guy. And then what does he do? He kills him, buries him.
Yeah.
You know, and that inward nature to fight for your own, you know, or to stand up for what is right.
Stand up for what's right. And that's been, you know what, that's been a downfall. Not a downfall, that's been a good thing for me. But as far as being a gangster,
that's probably not very good, right?
Not good.
Oh, man.
Because sometimes even though they're wrong, you have to go with the flow. And if you don't, you go against the grain. And see, that's when I started to realize, like, I'm not built like these. I'm not made. I don't have evil in my heart.
So it goes all the way back to that day where you're watching the Duke of Earl crying, lifting up your hands, saying, Jesus, come into my life. And then they're like, Pete. And you're like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm down. So your life is hanging in that balance.
And I really feel like God, like the Bible says, God does not look at the outward appearance, he looks at the heart. You know, when they were trying to find the new king, I really feel that God, he knew my heart, and he knew the way me and my brothers grew up, and he's seen, like, you know, everything. And I feel like that's why he's always had his hand on me, regardless of where I've been or what I've been through. God has always put his hand upon me, because I've been in some crazy situation, but God has covered me. Or I would show up to another institution, and they had just finished having a racial riot. Or I would show up somewhere and somebody just got, you know, killed or whatever, and it would happen before I would get there or when I would leave. Like, I was never like really like, I was in a couple riots, but nothing that would jeopardize, you know, me being, you know, like, even in those riots, I was in a couple riots too, but it was because of my doing. I went out of my way to look for the trouble. Like, it never just happened.
So what does a riot look like? Because, like, I remember watching the Rodney King riot, you know, on TV.
Well, they're looters. Those are looters. They're looting. A riot, they call it a melee. That's what they call it in prison. It's different because it's against each other. You know, usually it's races that are going up against other races, and you know, I was in a couple, or same race, different side of California.
Northern, southern.
Exactly. Because I was in Soledad one of my years, and I was going home in a month, and I wanted to go get tattooed before I was released. So I was supposed to go to somebody's cell after the unlock, and then come back out and go back to my dorm. But we were out early in the morning, and we're by the handball course where we usually hang out, and off to the distance there's like some Northerners, you know, and they're right there, and and before I say this story, because I've said it before and people took it wrong, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to say that we're better, or, to me, all that's ignorance now. I love, you know, I don't care if you're Northern, I don't care, that doesn't, you know, I don't play that no more.
Yeah, you're a different man.
I'm a different man now, you know what I mean? And at that time, you know, you're not allowed to communicate or interact with them in there. They were fed up. They were fed up because we were predominant in that yard, and we had rules and regulations on them, and they got fed up, and they reacted the way probably anybody would react, you know. And they try to take things into their own hands, and they caught us slipping, you know, in the morning, and we, you know, I had like 2 or 3 guys. Well, you know, they walked up, and we were surrounded, and we started fighting them. We ended up going to the hole, but it was a riot, and pretty much what it is just everybody just free for all.
Wow.
You know, and the thing you got to be careful that nobody has a weapon. That's what you got to be careful. I mean, these, you know, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? You're going to take it. But when somebody has a knife, it's a different story. You know what I mean? Thank God, like, no weapons were pulled that day. But we were right by the gun tower, you know, so that kind of kept the riot to a minimal because they started shooting. You know what I mean? Once they start shooting, you're going to hit the ground, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're not moving.
Yeah, I mean, if you do, they'll like they have so the towers are like right here, and we're down here, and they'll have like something right there where they'll shoot there. You know, sometimes if a prison says warning, no warning shots. That means they ain't shooting to that thing first. They're shooting straight at wherever you guys are fighting. You know what I mean? But right there, I think that they probably shot there first, and once they did that, we knew the next one's coming for us. You know what I mean?
Man. So you've been shot at?
Oh, yeah, like on the streets? Oh, yeah, I got shot twice. I got shot right here.
Okay.
And I got shot right here. Yeah. You don't even know when you get shot because adrenaline's pumping and you don't feel it. I didn't even know.
Wow. You just, afterwards, you recognized.
Yeah. Yeah, we had went and put in work, and the place that we shot, they chased us. And we took off. We were like way, way away from them, but we had to slow down because there was a cop watching like at the corner. So we're like, whoa, like, be cool. They didn't know that, and they didn't care. So when they pulled up behind us, we were in the car, and we seen it. I told my homeboy, I go, hey, get down. And all you see is the silhouette of a guy out the side of the window, his whole body out the side of the window, like shooting down at us.
Oh, my God.
So right when I went to tell them get down, they shot all our windows out. They shot the whole car up. And I think that's when I got hit, or I went like this, and that's when I got hit. Maybe it would have hit my head. I don't know. All I know is that we took off. I'm driving like this because I can't see because I'm afraid that I'm going to get shot. And we hit a curve, so my tire went, you know, exploded. And I'm going like 85, 90 miles an hour down this one street with my tire blowing out. You see sparks, so we had to pull over. They had already took off. The cops chased us. Jumped out of the car, started running. That's when I realized I was shot.
Holy mackerel. That is insane. That's real work. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So here you are. I can see it in my head. You're drawing a beautiful picture of sparks flying. You're hitting it. I see your hand. Your head's down. You're probably looking like out of a corner of an eye.
I hit the eye. You know when you turn, there's a little island right there?
Yeah.
I didn't clear it, so that's what hit, you know, and then...
But I can't believe the cops...
They came after us.
The car that pulled over, not the one that's...
Not the one that did the shooting.
Huh.
They turned around and went back home. But it was all for a meaning. Everything was for a reason, you know. God was using all this stuff.
Yeah, so here you are, you're shot.
Mm-hmm.
You end up in the hospital. What do you do?
Yeah, well, what happened is we took off. We left the car in the middle of the street. We jumped over this big old fence. I had to come back from my homeboy because he was short, and I had to help him get over. My homeboy Sharky, rest in peace. We pulled over, ran across this whole parking lot of the indoor swap meet, and we went on the other side of the street. We knocked. One of my homeboys lived there, and he wasn't there, but we didn't care. We just knocked on his door. His little sister answered. We barged in. I remember all of a sudden your helicopters, they're looking for us. They're like up and down. They don't know where we're at, but we're in the house. And I remember that his dad was asleep, and if his dad would have woke up, we would have been in trouble. So we're trying to be quiet. And probably like about an hour and a half later, I called somebody because I was, you know, I had this bullet in my arm. And I told him, hey, I need to go to, it was my girlfriend at the time, her mom. So they backed in. We ran out there, jumped in the car, and they took me to General Hospital.
Dang.
It was crazy.
So I'm just...
It's like, whoa, wait a minute, processing it, yeah.
Yeah, that's insane,
I mean,
man.
back then it was the norm, though. Back then, like, it was just, it was
Did that become a badge? An honor?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our enemies, when your enemies know who you are and they want to get you, it's usually because you're the one putting in work. So it was the guys that were my best friends. It was the guys that were my friends.
It was part of their group?
It was their group.
Oh, man.
So... all that happened, you know, I ended up going, I eventually ended up getting caught. You know, I ended up going to prison. I went to YA. I went to Youth Authority. And that's when I had my second encounter with the Lord. Because I ended up hitting a new institution where I'm getting ready. I was already sentenced. I ended up getting 9 years with halftime for the. I was fighting life, but the attempted murder that I had, I got dropped. And one of my carjackings got dropped because the lady said that I wasn't me. So I ended up having 2 carjackings that gave me 9 years with halftime. So this is my first time doing actual real time, and I go to youth authority. Even though I was tried as an adult, they allowed me to go to youth authority, and I started my time there. And I remember when I first got to the institution, they put me in a cell, and he wasn't there when I got there, but I felt like a peace in his cell. I felt like there was something different, like I could just feel a peace. And then I looked, and I go, wait a minute, I know this guy. So the person they put me in the cell with, I knew him from the streets. And he had a picture of him and his wife and his son at visiting. And I was happy because I knew that they had split up. So he comes back and he looks in the window and he sees me. He goes, oh, what's up, dog? What's up? You're my buddy. He goes, yeah. Came in the cell, we embraced. And then that's when he shared with me. He's like, you know what? I'm serving God. I gave my life to the Lord. His mom was really, really into Christianity, and she was really active in the church. So it was in him too. But he was a knucklehead. He was, from his gang and everything like that. But at that institution, he found God again, and he had a big impact, and he made a big impression on my life. God had put certain people in my life. He was one of them.
Markers. Turn you around. Open your eyes. Yeah, because I've heard other people share, similar stories where they've gone in, they meet someone that's a Christian, the first thing they think is you're weak. But you're not having that impression because you came into this cell and you're like, there's peace here.
Yeah, I felt it. Yeah, I felt the Holy Spirit. Put this right here. So after a couple of days, I go, you know what? I just would see him. I would watch him. He was something different about him. I was like, you know what? I don't know what it is, but I want that. I want you. Like, we're in jail and we're supposed to be. I was only there a couple of days, maybe not even a week. And he goes, "You wanna accept the Lord?" I go, "Yeah, man. Like I want that peace, man." And he led me to the Lord right there in that cell, and it was the beginning of a revival there. Something happened in that institution that I can't even explain, because there was a lot of young men that were lifers. They were juveniles, tried as adults, but the system had sent them to youth authority in Chino, which was YTS, and it was the last stop before they went to state. They allowed them to be there so they could be close to their families, and then eventually we were going to get shipped out upstate. So it was a privilege that we were there, right? So a lot of these dudes eventually were going to make their way upstate. And this was just, we're passing through a lot of the lifers. There was a lot of lifers there. And something happened where a revival, just the Spirit of the Lord dropped from that institution. And we were part of it. Because in jail, you have Catholic services and then you have Protestant services. Protestant was where Catholic, where all the Hispanics went. Protestants, where all the blacks went. So, I knew about Catholicism, but I needed the Bible. I wanted, and we were Christians. So we started going, there was only a few of us Mexicans that would go to the Protestants, and everybody else would be black in there, And, when you do that, you're taking a stand because your people are looking at you and you're like, what are you doing? And you're not supposed to be around all that. But hey, this is church. This is different. You know what I mean? We're going to do it no matter what. So we started going, and before you know it, it just starts changing. You start seeing, like, before you know it, man, like you see all kinds of different ethnicities in there, different races in there. And it's not no longer just a black church no more. Because I'm telling you, the Spirit of God just fell on that institution. I remember, it was something that I experienced from 93 to 96. It was like a book of Acts. Like the book of Acts all over again, but in there, and I was a part of it. Everything just started to shift. They had a chaplain that was there. He had been there for a long time, and he was cool. Like, we loved him, but he was already like on his way out. And God was raising up another chaplain that we'd see sometimes, and his name was Chaplain Banks. And he was the one that was going to take over. So when he came in, he was on fire.
Come on.
You know, he was on fire for the Lord, and then we're all youngsters, and we're all, on fire for the Lord. So it was like a perfect timing.
And so you're 17-ish now?
No, now I'm like 19.
19?
19, 20. Yeah, I was in 93. 93, I was 18. And then 94, 95, I was, 19, 20.
So you're right there at the of becoming 21 legal type thing.
Yeah.
And revival's starting to break out.
Big time.
Your gang life started at about 13, 14, right? 14?
Yeah, 14.
So you've already been running hard for 5 years.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's getting old. You meet your old guy, your friend, and he prays with you, and now revival's breaking out. New chaplain, Banks is on fire, and something's stirring in you.
Yeah, when we started going to that chapel, it was really small and it was really run down, and all of a sudden we painted, and then we get new pews, and God is just blessing us, and then we get choir roles. People start donating choir roles. Then TBN hears about it, and they started bringing in their speakers and speaking there, and then we had to start meeting in the auditorium because we couldn't fit in the chapel no more. And then we started getting favor with the superintendent, and then because what happened is we had another superintendent, and they caught him with embezzlement. So he had to go. So they got a new superintendent. He was a Christian.
Wow.
So it was just like God, And we blew up. We started having these big old events there. And then they started letting our parents come in and attend service with us for Mother's Day. And it was just so much favor. Like things were flowing, man. And the Spirit of God was moving. And then I started going to Bible college in there. They started having Patton Bible College. I started attending correspondence. I did all kinds of correspondence through different ministries, and that one was Bible college though. I started doing that, getting units done on that. Just trying to feed myself. Just I knew that God had a calling in my life, and from 93 to 96, we were going strong. But something happened. Something happened at that institution. We got hit. So there was this counselor that her name was Anisi Baker. That was her name. And they worked in the unit. So I was in GH, which is up here, and she was in a unit down here called CD. And CD, because there was alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then so on and so forth on the other units. So they were right below us and their unit. And I would see her because at that time I ended up getting a job working in the visiting hall. I would be there for visiting, and I had a lot of favor in that unit, that institution. And she ended up going to work one day, and she was on her way out, and one of the inmates had told her, "Hey, can you come back here real quick and open up this closet for me? I need to grab something." He was a worker. She's like, "Sure." He had just turned 25. They were getting ready to ship him upstate. He was a lifer. And she says, "Yeah, sure." He had noticed that she had already took off her belt, because on your belt you have these panic buttons, and when you push it, everybody comes running to where you're at, like quick. She took it off. She put it down. He asked her, "Hey, can you come open up this closet?" She's like, "Yeah." She grabbed her keys. She's already getting ready to go off shift, and before she does, she goes and opens up the door for him. As she's opening up the door, she's opening it. I mean, I wasn't there. We don't know how exactly it happened, but he attacked her, pushed her in, and eventually killed her.
Oh man.
Yeah, he killed her, and put her in a trash can, stuffed her in there. She was a big woman. She wasn't small. Then he put another bag on top of her, and then he rolled her out, and he asked the senior staff that was there, "Hey, can you open the door? I got to take the trash out," which is normal. Like, "Hey, okay, I got you." Opened this thing, went around, got to the dumpster, had to ask another inmate to help him dump her into the trash can. They didn't know what was going on, but I'm sure they felt the weight. So we're in our institution, and like I work visiting. That was Friday. Saturday comes around. I'm getting ready to go to work because it's visiting day, and they're telling us get ready, and we got ready. I'm sitting in my cell waiting for them to come open the door. Nothing. The heck, what's going on here? Like, why ain't they opening my door? Why ain't they unlocking my door yet? I gotta go. Visiting's gonna start. Nothing. And then then they call me out because I used to clean up blood in that institution. Me and another guy, we were certified to go do that. So we went, and everything was locked down. We went to this unit. They had a riot that morning on the other side of this other unit, and there was blood everywhere because somebody got sliced with their artery. They had to fly that guy out. So we clean up all the blood. We go back. So we're like, oh, that's why we're on lockdown, right? So Saturday comes and goes. We're still on lockdown. no visiting. They canceled visiting. Sunday comes around, and we're like, all right, no visiting again, I guess, right? So we're watching the TV, watching the news on the TV, and all of a sudden our institution comes out on Channel 7 saying that they're looking. They had started looking in our cells, and we didn't know why. They started telling you guys step out, and they would go in our cell and look under the mat, bunks, look everywhere, and they did that, you know. That's when we found out that her car had never left the parking lot.
Oh man.
So they were looking for her. They couldn't find her body. So it wasn't until like 2 days later that they found her body at the Chino dump, the dump site, you know, and they realized that she had been murdered, you know.
Oh man.
Yeah. And that's pretty much when everything hit the fan, and then it got real, you know, and the enemy hit, you know, the devil hit, and all of us that were serving the Lord, we all got transferred out to different institutions, you know. They didn't allow us to stay there no more, and that's when a lot of us hit the big house.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was in 96, 97, around that time.
It's heartbreaking. You know, the woman lost her life, but you see how the enemy works. Took advantage of one mistake and stopped the move, shifted. So what happened to you from that moment? Did you get shipped out as well?
Yeah, eventually we ended up going on lockdown. They took us off lockdown for a little bit. They took the lifers first, went back onto lockdown one night, and the next day they shipped us up in bus loads to prison. I got to Soledad, and the very guy that had led me to the Lord was back on a new beef.
Oh man.
Yeah. I hit the yard and I go, what happened? Like, he backslid, you know? Oh, I messed up, and I'm still serving the Lord at this time, and I'm trying to pull him back, but trying to pull him back, he pulled me in.
Pulled you back out?
He pulled me like back into the world with the homies.
Oh man.
So I'm chilling with the homies on the yard, and you know, I'm in a new place.
Yeah.
You know, I see the dude that led me to the Lord, and you know, my grandma dies, and then the girl that I thought that I was gonna marry, she ended up marrying somebody else. I just got hit all at once. No excuses. I fell away. So that's when the riot happened. So see, everything bad started happening, you know, like bam, I see him, he's backsliding, he pulls me back into the homies. Me trying to pull him back into the church, he pulled me. Grandma dies. Girlfriend got married to somebody else. Getting ready to go home in a month. Get into a riot. Get more time added on. You know, going to the hole. When I was in the hole, that's jail within jail. You know, you're separated from General Pop, and you go into like ASIG. And I ended up doing like 4 months there. And I ended up paroling from the hole on Christmas Eve, 1997. So I got out. Not serving the Lord, you know. I'm already back in, not gonna say back in all ways, but I'm not serving the Lord. I get out. I'm only out for 4 weeks, and one of my homeboys that I had originally got it busted with the first time calls me up. Hey, let's hang out. I'm gonna pick you up. I'm like, all right, I don't see no harm in that. Let's go. You know, only out 4 weeks after doing 5 years. Picks me up with one of my homegirls. We go down to my neighborhood. Literally. Pulled into a driveway. He went into my homeboy's house, got something. As we're reversing, there's a cop that's passing by, and he sees us, so he turns around. We realize he turns around, so we come out of the driveway and we take off down the street, make another quick right. He jumps out of the car. He tells her, stop. Jumps out of the car, takes off running. I'm like, cops right behind us, you know? They see him run. They don't bother chasing him. They come up to the car, and I realized that he'd left the door open, so I jumped in the front of the Astrovan. I closed the door. And I sit down. Cops come up, say, you're on parole and probation? Yeah, I'm on parole. Step out of the car. When you're on parole, they automatically handcuff you, put you in the backseat of the car because you're on parole. You pretty much have no rights. They do that. They start searching the area. They find dope.
Not yours, it's his.
It's not mine. He took off running, and either he dropped it or he threw it. I don't know. Put me in there. I'm already handcuffed. So they go, oh, it looks like we got looks like who. They first asked me who was that, and I go, I don't know. We just picked it up down the street. He just, well, you're going to jail for this tonight. So I'm like, what the heck? Like I don't do dope. You know what I mean? I already got out. You know, I'm in the back of the cop car, just like, oh man, like this is like a violation or whatever. And then they come back, they get on the radio, and they go, oh, it looks like we have a 3-strike candidate.
Oh, man.
Because they're striking people out for dope at this time. Like, your third offense doesn't have to be a violent crime. So that's when it hit me that I was looking at some real serious time now. You know, I could go away for life for this. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm sitting in the back seat like this, handcuffed, and it's just like I hear the cops saying like, "Oh, it looks like we got a 3-strike candidate. You know, you're going to jail for this tonight." And I promise you, like, the cop's window was cracked like this much. I could hear like the devil laughing at me through that window. It was like an evil presence, like, I got you.
Dang.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So what do you do? If it was me, I'm thinking, I'm singing, you know, I'm like, la, 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 la.
It's Talon 3 set you free. No,
yeah.
I knew I couldn't do that. I was still loyal to the game. So they told me, he says, tell us who it was and we'll let you go. I says, I can't, you know. I was trying to get him to come forward. I called him. When I got settled in, I go, hey, you need to come take your beef. Or I shot a message to him, and he says, I can't. I'm gonna look at a lot of time too. And this is my dog. This is my boy.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm looking at 3 strikes. I ended up fighting it for almost like a little bit less than a year, 9-10 months. Finally, they came to me with a deal. They came to me with 8 years at first, with 80%. I said, I just did 5 years. This isn't my dope. I'm not gonna take it. I can't. I'm gonna lose another 6-7 years of my life for that. That's not even mine. Kept fighting it, praying. I was praying. You know, I started a prayer group in there.
So you got saved radically once again. Wow.
I just started reaching out to God because I realized that I was set up by the devil. I realized that I didn't have a covering in my life at that time. And the devil was able to do whatever he wanted to do to me because I wasn't walking in God's grace no more. That even though I wasn't serving the Lord, like, the enemy still wanted me because of the work that I was putting in YA. You know, he got me. And reality started. That was the second time looking at life. And I fought the case, and I prayed and I had prayer groups in there, and God came through again. Like, they came at me right before I was getting ready to pick my jury. They said, we have another deal for you. And I think my state appointer said, I think you should take it. I go, well, what is it? They said, it's 32 months with 80%. I go, well, how much time will I do? I said, 2 years. So I go, can I have 5 minutes to think about this? Let me process it. Like, she left, and then God told me something. He says, you know what, son, like, you're not guilty for this, but you're guilty for this. Like, it was my karma because of stuff that I did when I was out there for the 4 weeks. And that's what helped me to process it.
Wow.
It was like taking a pill that you didn't want to take and giving up 2 more years of your life, even though it wasn't you. You know, I had 2 cops testifying me. If I went through with it, they could have gave me life. So I felt like I had no choice. And I ended up signing the deal and going away for 2 more years. And those 2 years were harder to do than the 5 years because I felt like it was a nightmare. Like, I was scared to go home now because I had these 3 strikes over me, you know? So I did. I went back upstate. Ended up going to fire camp. Ended up paroling from fire camp. It was a different journey. I started picking up the tattoo gun more, and I started, my artwork. When I was in the hole, rewind to solve that, I would draw a lot, 18 hours a day, drawing right there at my desk.
So did you always have a gift of art?
I always had the gift of writing, of writing, of
nice penmanship.
Yeah, I always had nice penmanship. I just never.
So you're a good graffiti?
Yeah. I just never took the step of drawing. You know, it's another level. You know. And when I was in Soledad, it felt like God was grooming me for my gift, you know, of drawing. It felt like He was getting me ready. I'm not saying that God, you know, wanted me to use that tattooing for my gift, but that's what ended up happening. You know what I mean? I got out in 2000. I tried getting regular jobs, construction. I tried doing warehouse. And I felt like I was still doing time. I felt like I was unhappy. I go, anybody can do this job. I felt like a monkey could do the job that I had me putting blinds into a grinder. That was just me, you know.
Yeah.
And I use that as motivation.
You were always, like you said, a guy that dove into something and you wanted to be the best at it.
Yeah.
And so you started drawing, and immediately your desire is to be the best. Because nobody draws 18 hours a day unless you have, 1, the time, and 2, the desire.
Yeah.
So you had the time, but even what allowed you to do it was desire.
Yeah. big time. The stage was set. And when I got out in 2000, like I said, I tried getting regular jobs, and I kept getting fired, or I walk out on the job. And I says, you know what? I'm gonna go back to doing what I know how to do. And at that time, there was a wave going around, like tattooing was it. It was like in the early 2000s, it was like a wave of just a trendy wave that everybody was getting tatted, and they made it popular. And I was able to ride that wave in. You know, at first I was doing a mobile, and I do them in my house, apartment with my baby's mom that I was being with at the time, and just doing them out the house. And then I was able to, the door was open for me where I was able to meet people in the business, and it helped me to get better. And before you know it, like it was a full-on job, and I finally was able to get into a shop eventually, and I started doing conventions and traveling. You know what I mean? I started winning awards. I remember the first time I won an award, I couldn't believe it. It was 2008. I had 8 years in already. And I was in a show in Orange County, and I happened to enter my piece that I had did. And I never thought that it was always a dream, And sure enough, I ended up winning Tattoo of the Day. I was shocked. I was in disbelief. Called my mom crying. Mom, guess what?
Wow.
Because I felt like I had achieved something.
Accomplishment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was like, wow, like it takes a lot, because you're going up against around 50 some guys. And some of them are, different art, types of art,
Yeah.
And I ended up winning Best of the Day right there at the show, and that kind of fueled my drive to want to win more awards. I went on to win like over 50 awards. I won over 50 awards.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've traveled. I've been able to travel around the world. I got a chance. I took my family to Rome last October.
Come on.
For a show. We got a Hawaii show coming up in 2 weeks. So God turned my life around, and He used tattooing as an instrument. People might view it, in the gray area, but I made a promise to God that I wouldn't do provocative stuff. I wouldn't do in provocative areas. I wouldn't do evil stuff. I recommitted my life to the Lord. I would say a little bit more than a year ago now, where I rededicated my life. I got baptized again.
Come on.
And I recently started a men's group that's directed towards gang members and drug addicts.
Wow. So, here you went from about 21 to now.
Yeah, I just skipped everything.
So what happened in the middle? From 21 to now.
I ended up so when I was 21, when I was in YA, that revival happened, remember? And then I ended up going to prison because they transferred all of us out. And then I paroled from prison. I ended up doing my time at camp at 25. That's when I got out. In 2000, February 10th, 2000 is when I got out.
So once you got out there,
25.
you never went back, right?
No.
That's good stuff. Man.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you, man.
Actually, this year I'll celebrate 25 years of being out.
Come on.
25 years of being out.
Oh, man, I feel the anointing on that. That felt good. Like
25 years. It feels like when we talk about my story, I feel like it was another lifetime.
Well, it was 2.5 decades. Mm-hmm. Holy.
Yeah, I just turned, I don't even want to say it, but I just turned 50.
Welcome to the 50 Club.
Yeah. I didn't think I would make it this far. By the grace of God, He's allowed me in.
Well, yeah, you've been shot twice. Yeah. You've been in crazy shootouts.
Beat life twice.
Car chases.
Yeah. And I just recently had my first son. I have 4 daughters, and God finally blessed me with a son at 50 years old. I felt like Abraham.
Oh, my God. My God. Yeah, well, you're still young.
God used him. Me and my girl, I met her when we were in the world. I met her, she was a bartender, and I was out doing my thing, and I was actually on a date with another girl, and I went to go order a drink, and I seen her, and she made an impression on me, and then the next time I went to that event, she was there, and so we started talking, and we hooked up, and so we came back to the. She's going to church. We're finding our way back now.
That's awesome.
We had a son, and our son God has used our son in a crazy way. We named him Josiah because it's Jesus and Messiah together. And I feel like God used him to get my attention.
Yeah, Josiah in Scripture is boy king.
Josiah, yeah.
He was matter of fact, right now I'm on a whole series talking about a generation starting with Josiah from 8 years old to about 20. And I'm talking about all these men and women of God that we think were old and God used them mightily, and they were kids. They were crazy like you in that 18 to from 8 to 20, because your life really started to shift at about 8-9 years old when you're with your dad and all that stuff. He came back into your life, and then a little later put hands on you, and your world shifted. But if you start looking, man, we see that Josiah was 8, Samuel was 12, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were 15 to 20, David was 15. Wow. Jeremiah was between 18 to 20 when he was called. Wow. I mean, he was 14.
Initially called.
Yeah,
right?
when they were called into the ministry and did crazy things. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood up against Nebuchadnezzar when they were 14 to 20.
Refused to bow.
And refused to bow. So, I mean, think about it. They were radicalists. They were no different than you, at that age in your life. You were a radicalist, and it's either going to be Satan use us or Christ use us. And think of Queen Esther. She became queen at 14 years old.
Wow.
And by 19, she's destroying the works of Haman's gallows. Josiah, by the time he turned 20, he was fulfilling the word of the Lord that was spoken years before he even existed, over 300 years.
Amen.
And so, just hearing that, if I can, I just want to share something that I just felt impressed in my heart.
All right.
This is what I really feel and sense that God's saying. This is just the beginning. I felt like he wants you to know that he's going to give you the ear when you're doing your work of men that would never listen to the gospel, but they'll hear your story and be radically changed and transformed. I heard the Spirit of God say to tell you that he has written his story in your heart. And his word's going to come forth from your mouth like water. And it's going to be easy to share, easy to preach, easy to testify. And you're going to see the hardest of hearts melt and change and transform. And I feel like he wants you to know that he's getting ready to restore all of your family. Your family is been pulled in many different directions, but I heard the cry of unity in your heart, and I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, be steadfast and sure. Know that I am going to gather your family. Where there's walls of division, I'm going to make bridges and opportunity, and I'm going to join the houses together where they will no longer be a divide. I'll bring a peace not only to you, but to them, and their system and their world will change and transform. Matter of fact, I really believe that God's going to use you as a voice of evangelism. You can't help but to share. You're a talker, and you can talk to rich people, down and out people, gangs. You could talk to businessmen. God has given you a platform in so many different directions. What he's going to do is he's going to use you to minister in every one, because he's put the anointing of Joseph on you. The anointing of Joseph. Joseph was one that had 3 different garments put on him. But the last garment was the garment of a king. And it seems like in your story, you've come to Christ 3 different times in your life. This is your 3rd garment. And what I really sense is God says, that in which you touch now, I've put favor on your life. And what Joseph touched, the Bible says he brought increase to. Amen. And so get ready. You're stepping into a season of the things that God has you touch. Increase in favors coming. Your family is about to be joined together like never before. Amen. And the scripture that I'll just share with you is Isaiah 65. The Bible says the new wine is found in the cluster, which means the seed, but it means the seed of family. Amen. He said the new wine is found in the cluster. Don't destroy it, don't break it, for the blessing is in it. God said, I'm restoring the blessing to your family. Amen. And I'm restoring unity. You know the scripture, it says in Psalms 132, it says, how pleasant and wonderful it is that brethren or family dwells together in unity. God says, I'm getting ready to unify all that I've promised you.
I receive it. I receive it. You know, it's crazy because like I mentioned to you last night, like the enemy was trying to get me last night, you know. I took a drive up here from Southern California and on my way out the door, the enemy tried to hit. And, you know, I had to take a moment and says, I'm going up, and I'm gonna share my testimony. This is the enemy, and I prayed, and I released it to the Lord. I said, God, I'm doing something for you, so I already know this is trying to come from the enemy. He's trying to stop me from being a blessing and to receiving my blessing, and I'm not gonna let him. So I drove in the middle of the night. We drove. I'm like, we're going no matter rain, moon, or shine. We coming.
I know. I did really want you to get here early.
Yeah.
We'll be able to hang out in a moment, and we'll be able to chill a little bit and just continue to build our relationship, man. I really enjoyed your story. Before we kind of bring it to a conclusion here, tell me, what are you doing? You're talking about you're teaching this study.
Yeah, so what happened
Talk to me, yeah.
Okay, so I go to church, like I said, it's called Victory Outreach, and I go to the Mother Church in Chino, and our church is mainly, it's been around for almost 60 years, and the way it got started was reaching out to gang members and drug addicts, and which is that's been our strong point, you know what I mean? And I was away from the church for a while, and I come back, and it's kind of shifted. There's still some gang members there, homies and stuff, but you see more church kids now because it's the third wave.
Yeah.
So when I come back, I'm like, you know what? This is where I come in. This is why I come in, because I gotta be the one that, the scripture says, "Here am I, send me." Because I don't see too many people that are still reaching out to them in my ministry because they're busy with the church kids and in-house, which is fine. But somebody's got to still go out there and get these guys, because they're out there and they're hurting and they want to change, but they need direction, they need guidance, they need somebody to show the way, And I was talking to one of my brothers in the church, and he's been there for a long time, J-Love, and I was telling him, like, hey, bro, where's the homies at? I don't really see them anymore. We're the Mother Church, and I love my church. I love my pastor. So I want to contribute to it. I want to, whatever I could do with my gifts. He goes, he comes back the next time I see him, goes, God told me that he wants you to be the one. So check this out. So I didn't go back and pray about it. I didn't go back and, Pastor, I just did it. And I probably could have got in trouble for it, because normally they got to pray you out. They got to tell you, hey, you're going to be a leader of a Bible, so you can do this. I didn't do that. God called me. God called me, and there's a need, and there's a burden in my heart, and I'm going to move on it. And then I went and told my pastor, we're starting a men's group. I don't want to call it a Bible study, because the kind of men that I'm going to reach, they're not going to go to a Bible study. The kind of men that God has already started using me, because our first meeting was a couple weeks ago, and there was 17 guys.
Wow.
Since then, it's already doubled. It's probably like around almost 40 guys that I have a list. And these guys are hungry. These guys want it. They're excited. And they don't go to church. I didn't want nobody from church. I didn't want to pull anybody from my church. Maybe one guy to help me for the team. But other than that, I wanted brand new guys off the street. I wanted to get my hands dirty. You know what I mean? I didn't want no polished up dudes. You know what I mean? I want guys, because we got to get in there sometimes. We got to get our hands dirty. I think sometimes the church is just, no offense to anybody, but we just get spiritually fat. We just sit and we just receive church. That's fine, but we got to also put out.
I'll use a word that you use. You got to put in the work.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
You're putting in the work.
Yeah.
On the other side, for the right things, for the right cause. That's that Joseph's touch, man. Joseph put in the work. He did it for, his family with the dream and the vision. But then he had to go put in the work for Potiphar, and then he did right for Potiphar, gets accused, thrown into a prison, right?
Amen.
And then what happens? He does the right.
Dreams.
He interprets the dream of the butler and the baker. Mm-hmm. And what happens? He's remembered and called out from Pharaoh's prison. And then he becomes basically the father to Pharaoh.
Yeah. And that's, it's all about, like, what I've learned is showing them that you genuinely care. A phone call, a text.
Because they're looking for family. They're used to the family vibe in that sense, on the streets, that it's a bad family, but, it's love. Yeah. It's a family it's going to lead them into a harder place or a difficult place somewhere in their journey.
Yeah. And I told God, I says, like that's if you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. And it's like these tattoos, use them. My look, my background, what I come from, being in prison, all for your glory, because they're not going to listen. Initially, they're not going to listen to just some Joe Schmo, you know what I mean? they're gonna listen to somebody that they want to listen to somebody they can relate to.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's like, you know what, God, I'm more than willing. I'm ready. You know, I'm equipped. You know, I know the Word of God, and I'm going to continue to learn and study the Word of God. You know, when I was in Y, I studied Scripture. I have so many Scriptures that that I internalized. You know, what does the Bible say? How can a young man keep his ways pure? Psalms 119, 9 and 11. But I have hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. So that's what we have to do. You have to do when it comes to the Word of God. These are Scriptures that I memorized 30 years ago, and they're still in my heart. Because why? Because I etched them in there.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I didn't let go of those Scriptures, regardless of no matter where I've been, what I've done, who I've been with, whatever. You know, the Word of God has never left me. I left the Word. You know, but I'm back, and, you know, like I said, I'm back with a vengeance.
Isaiah 55:11 says something powerful. You know, you said I left the word, but the word never left you. Mm-hmm. The Bible says the word that was spoken was sent to accomplish a thing, and therefore it will not return void to the sender. So
he who began a good work will carry it out to completion to the day of Christ.
Come on, till it's finished, brother. You know.
So I just feel like it. Okay, you know what, God, like, and you know what's crazy is that I did go back to the world, and I did live my life, and I did make a name for myself, and, you know, I traveled the world. I can say all that, but I still was missing something, you know? I have money, I have cars, I had women, I had all that stuff, man. Trust me, you know, I had my fill, but I didn't have the Lord.
You didn't have peace.
My house was not a home. You know, it was something missing. I knew it too. And, you know, a situation happened where I couldn't see my son for 45 days. I was caught up because I was caught up in my sin. And I was trying to, you know, have my cake and eat it too. Walk the fence. And the Bible says, God shall not be mocked. And God showed me a powerful lesson there. You're either all in or you're all out. He says, you know, like it says, you know, I wish you were hot or cold, but because you are lukewarm, I'll spit you out of my mouth. You know, and God showed me a powerful lesson. You can't play me. You can play everybody else, but you can't play me.
He wins.
He brought me to my knees, and I was broken for a long time. I was broken, but in that brokenness is when God was really showing himself strong in my life. And I said, God, don't, if keeping this brokenness is going to keep me close to you, then keep me broken.
Yeah. The good news is, brother, you've already been made whole, you know, because we understand that Christ at Calvary's cross, what did he do? He paid the price for your sin. The moment you repented, it's like it never existed. And so in the eyes of God, you've been made right.
Yeah.
You're no longer a sinner, you're a son.
Amen.
And so now you're walking in your sonship.
Amen.
And when you discover the truth of your identity, no man can take it. No one can put you under shame, sin, or condemnation.
Amen.
You'll walk in righteousness and truth. You'll walk with your head up,
Amen.
your heart before you, saying, hey, God's going to use me.
You know what's crazy is that God gives us all gifts, and he doesn't take those gifts away, even if you're not serving him. I was using my gifts in the world. Like, I was the one that would call the party. See, I was the ringleader. I'd bring people together. I'd network people together, and, you know, I created a big following because of that. And I was using it for the wrong things, and now that ain't nothing changed, but but who I'm serving.
That's it.
You
now
know,
we're gonna use it for the right thing.
So,
we'll help you, man.
Know, I still have the ability to be able the gift to be able to do that, but now I'm using it for his glory. And, you know, I thank the Lord that he can still use me, and it makes you. I'm not sure if the scripture, maybe you know, but he who's been forgiven of much loveth much. You know,
yes,
and,
sir.
To me, I feel like, man, God, like, it makes you love God even more. It makes you like appreciate and love God. It's like I've had my fill of that, like the prodigal son.
Yep.
You know, and I don't want that. You know, I want to come home and I just want to stay here with you, Lord. And I've voiced it many times to the people around me. Everybody's like, what happened to this dude one day to the next? No, it's because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Absolutely.
You know,
and so God comes, and what does he do? He renews our mind. And then in the renewing of our mind, he brings metamorpho, transformation from the inside out of our body. We're no longer going to use our body to glorify the things of the world. Amen. We'll just simply use our lives to become vessels. Amen. You know, the Word of God says something so beautiful. It says, in him we move, we live, we have our being. Amen. So we live by the very essence of our Father.
Amen. You know, what's crazy is that I said, like, you know, God used my son. When I see my son come out, and I started seeing him, you know, getting from just being born to like crawling to walking, it really hit me hard because I saw me as a baby through him, and how if my dad would have stuck it out, my life probably would have been different.
100%.
And I was like, this, a kid needs his mother and his father. It needs to be raised because I've seen everything, and I don't want my son to have to go through what I went through. I pray for my son's feet. Lord, don't let these feet go in the direction of evil. I pray for his hands. Lord, don't let these hands commit evil, Lord. I pray over my son at night.
Come on.
Because I don't want him to go through what I went through. Seeing the ugly things that I've seen in prisons, the violence, like I went through it, and God, thank God I made it out. And God gave me the stomach and the heart to see the things that I've seen, but I do not want my son to see those things,
And he ain't. And he won't, because he's going to have what's called the 10,000 touches put on him. You ever heard that term, 10,000 touches? It's when a child's 3 years old that they say a baby needs the affirmation of a father. The 10,000 touches not of a mother, of a father. And they'll be strong. They'll be secure. They will be well-mannered. They will be conquerors.
Yeah.
They will be a people that run after dreams and goals.
Amen.
So I think you're going to touch your son, in the sense of hugging him, loving him, affirming him, building him up. I see you as the dad say, let's go, and cheering him on, whatever he does,
He's going to be a Dodger, watch.
Well,
that's my retirement plan.
There you go. It pains me that you're wearing Dodger blue. I'm born and raised Northern California, so I'm opposite of you guys. But hey, I don't have a problem. I'm just glad I have a brother. I have a friend.
Amen.
And hey, man, let's just build relationships.
That's right.
And let's just continue to see God move.
Amen.
I don't know if I've preached at many victory outreaches.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've been to
Awesome.
many for about 20 years. I've been a part of the VO family.
Wow.
Though I'm not victory outreach.
Yeah.
And though I don't fit the typical mold, but I have a gift that just opens the doors.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
The gift, the prophetic word in my mouth. I was just in Salt Lake City not too long ago, Pastor Robles. I have my friend Dave, Pastor Dave and Pastor Eddie. They're in Yuba City and South Sacramento.
Amen.
I play golf with these guys.
Wow.
Pastor Esteban. There's
I know
many.
Pastor Esteban, yeah.
Pastor Tim, San Jose.
Tim, yeah.
I've preached at some of the big places. God's used me. Pastor Tom out in
Denver.
Yeah. I've been around. I've been around.
Wow.
And
awesome.
God's just been really.
And he brought us together. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Look at, and I didn't even know.
Pastor Pete.
Yeah, there you go. Hey.
Evangelist.
Father, let it be so. Everybody heard him, right? No, man. And why not?
I got prophesied over that a long time ago that I was going to be a general in God's army, and I was going to be a pastor evangelist.
Well, I see the strong evangelistic call, and I think what you're doing is with these men, you're pastoring them already.
Yeah.
And so, it's a matter of just not being afraid, opening your mouth and saying something.
I wanted to just share something before it does come to a close. Is that there's been a lot of stuff going on in the news lately with social media, like different cases. One was the couple that lost their lives on the Vegas Strip. Another dude killed him, and then there was another one with the female. She was a influencer, workout influencer. I don't want to say her name, but she got murdered by her husband. And what I wanted to say about that is that, we got to be careful, that platform. I think what it is this is we'll narrow down with this, is that the reason we are created to serve God. I was at the hotel and I went to go get some ice from an ice maker. And then God, I felt something coming on. It says, this machine was created to make ice. It has a purpose. Specifically to shoot out ice. That's it. And I started thinking about our purpose. We are created. God gave us all this, the earth, the beautiful sun, the earth, the everything, the air we breathe, the grass. It's a gift to us. Our life, we're created to give it back to God.
Yes, sir.
We're created to serve him. But what happens is that when these platforms are created, I went down this influencer's timeline. I went down her first post, and it was just her kids, and she didn't have the body wasn't done yet, and she was getting a couple of likes, maybe like the highest was maybe 80 likes, and then I keep scrolling up, and you see there was a transformation that took place, and she got her body done, and then all of a sudden she's getting 200 likes, 800 likes, 50 comments, 2,000. You know what I mean? And what happens when somebody starts to get that much attention, we don't know how to handle it. And that's when it becomes dangerous.
Yeah.
Even with the case of the people in Vegas, they started getting a following and they let it get to their head. That's why when we get that, we give it to God.
Yeah.
Lord, straight to you, Lord. Glory to you. Because us as human beings do not know how to handle that type of attention.
Yeah, I think Rocky said it really well to me one time. He said, man, Rob, he says, don't be that guy that's like likes become cocaine to you, sniffing likes. He said, I know too many guys that it's all about sniffing likes, their platform.
Oh, I was trying to...
Yeah, so he's relating it to like cocaine, like, people, they get high off of somebody liking their stuff,
I got, speaking of Rocky, man, he's like my little brother.
I love Rock.
We've had some up and downs, but one thing I know, and this probably goes for everybody, that God brings certain people together to serve him together. And we've gotten off track with that before, and we try to be just friends, worldly friends, when we weren't, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work out like that. And I told Rocky, I said, God brought me and you together to do his work. He didn't bring us together to drink. He didn't bring us together to go chase girls. He didn't bring us together to go party. He brought me and you together to serve the Lord.
Come on.
And I go, as long as we stay on that track, we good.
You're right. Yeah, me and Rocky, we play golf together. We do a lot of things. We've gone out to dinner with him and Delia.
Yeah.
I married them, and
oh wow,
yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been instrumental part.
Yeah.
In 3 short years, God has put us together, man, and so I'm looking forward. You're here because Rocky.
Yeah.
He did it, and he's like, Rob, you need to.
Yes,
I said, all right, done deal. Yeah, that guy. His podcast was amazing.
It's a natural.
Yeah.
He's trying to push me, and he's trying to push me in that direction. And I did my first podcast host with him. Like I said, I was on his show before Street Scholars, and then I became one of the hosts. And he's always trying to push me, or he's networking me through people. And that's what I'm saying. Like it's with God. I told him,
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Untouchable. Lazy.
Jaime.
Yeah, because I started, I was making up a new name, and I was like, I said it wrong once, and then it sticks with me. So, but thank you, Jaime. I truly appreciate.
My pleasure.
You coming and sharing your story. Maybe if you can, look right at this camera here and just say what's ever in your heart, how you would hope maybe this testimony of your life can change someone.
I mean, I'm just going to shoot it to you the way God gave it to me. He says, greater love has no man than this, that a man laid down his life for his friends. That was what I was challenged with. Like, God wanted me to lay down my selfish needs, my selfish desires, my wants, my dreams, my visions of the world, because there's a lot of other people around you. It's not just about you. It's the path that you're going to create that everybody's going to come in behind you. Because sometimes you're going to be the only Jesus that they see. A lot of people don't go to church. They don't go to Bible study. There's not a lot of people that give a good demonstration of Jesus in their lives. So we have to be his hands, and we have to be his eyes and his ears, and we have to be his mouth. And we got to give a good representation of Jesus. And if you don't know the Lord, then I pray that you will come to know the Lord no matter what it takes. The Bible says that if you knock, the door will be answered. You seek and you will find. Ask and you shall receive. But it's not until you seek him with all your heart. Don't let it take something drastic the way it did me. Don't let it take something where God brings you to your knees. I mean, if that has to happen, then God will still be there. But come on your own free will, come on your own free desire. And he will meet you there, and he will use whatever it is that you're going through. I know a lot of depression, anxiety is going on right now. Like a lot of the guys that I talk to, they're lonely. And it's because social media makes us that way, But you need to get out there. You got to realize that there's a God who loves you, who has a plan. You have a purpose, where there's no vision, people will perish. So I pray that you will find your purpose and you will find your vision. The only way you're going to find it is when you come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ.
That's good stuff, man. Hey, thank you for sharing your story.
Man, no problem.
Super appreciate it.
Hey, man, thank you for having me on this beautiful platform, man.
Oh, man. My pleasure.